today we're going to talk about our favorite BL series, the hottest BL series of this year, 2022. Of course, last year, 2021, which is the Bad Buddy series. And now we're going to talk about our first impressions about this very popular BL series of this year. And of course, last year. And still up to this year, I mean. That's what I mean, okay? So, let's start with this. A long-standing feud between families extends to the sons who are, since they were little, competing in every way, be it academic or sports or just simple things. It has been 3 years since Pat and Pran parted ways. But as fate would have it, they are now attending the same university, though in different faculties. One is staff while the other is neat freak. Their families fight over the smallest of things, but what would happen if the sons develop a relationship that goes beyond friendship? Bad Buddy is taking us to an interesting journey about secret friendship, romance, and perhaps that long overdue reconciliation. Are you ready? Yes, I am. Okay, wait a minute. So let's have a quick recap of Bad Buddy series. The first is the unexpected or not expected reunion. Pat or Pat, as played by the actor and his friends are after Y, an architecture student who insulted Pat the previous night. Pran, played by as soon as he arrives, he discovers that one of the guys involved is his neighbor's son. Pat and Pran's families live next to each other and has been in a feud for years. The fathers are business rivals. One was said to have pirated the employees and customers of the other, which nearly cost him his business. The mothers are competing and praying for their sons to have future girlfriends who is better than the other. So wait. And then the fight ends when the university guard, along with a professor, arrive at the scene of the brawl. That same day, both parents find out that their sons have already met each other and warn them not to interact. However, Pat's friends can't seem to let go and still want to take revenge for the insult. They continue to tail Y and wait for the right time to corner him when he is alone. Pa tells Pat that whatever the fight is about, he should remember not to hurt Pran. Wait. Okay. So, this is very important. Pran saves Pa's life. Pa is the sister of Pan. Pa. I mean, Pa is the sister of Pat. Okay? And Pran said, a flashback reveals that Pran saved Pop from drowning when they were kids. Back to the present, Pat follows Pran, who is on his way to get the application form for the Freshie Day 2021. They end up having a music battle once left alone. They have to print out the form themselves as the department runs out of ink. Pat talks to Con over the phone to tell him to postpone their plans as his younger sister is almost there to pick him up. However, Con says that he sees Y alone and will proceed as planned. Pat agrees and tells him he will try to stall Pran for 5 more minutes, only to find out Pran already left. Wait a minute. Okay, here we go. So let's continue. Uh, Wait a minute. Give me time, please. I'm answering an email. Okay, so this is the scene. It's a fake fight actually. As it turns out, the guy Con saw is Pran, not Y, and hesitates but decides to fight as Pran and Y are friends. After a brief fight, Pran escapes from Pat's friend and runs into Pat, who helps him hide. Pa rolls in their dad's car and both get away. That night, Pat once again sneaks into Pran's room and they come up with the idea to solve the feud. Pran apologizes in front of him and, and his friends. Though Pat is a little unsure, they make a deal. The next day, both parties face off once again, and Pran offers an apology on Y's behalf and takes full responsibility as class president. Okay, let's continue the story. Y says Pran does not need to apologize for him as he can do it himself. He says sorry to Pat and both thought it is the end of it. However, the hot-headed Con is not satisfied with the public apology and another fight ensues. When one of the students hit the fire alarm, the brawling group disperses. Pat and Pran run to each other one more time. Pat tells Pran that the fight between their friends is now over as Corn was able to throw a few punches. Still, the professor summons them. He tells them that he will not report the incident as no one got hurt, but it will be the last time they would get away with it. The next time they engage in a brawl, both faculties will be banned from attending university events. Okay, next is this. Pat and Pran see each other again in the pharmacy as both nurse the injuries they got during their fake fighting. That scene was funny. They agree not to confront each other. Pran suggests that Pat gets his line ID so they could effectively avoid crossing paths. Just as Pran gives him his line ID, Pat refuses and asks why is he the one adding Pran? I rolled my eyes at his childish behavior at this scene. Pran comes up with another idea. They should add each other at the same time. But Pran tricks him, and Pat eventually is the first to add Pran in his friends list. Annoyed, Pat walks away as Pran looks at his retreating figure. Next is the Pran and the old watch. If you remember, Pran gets home and inside his room, he looks at the watch and remembers the night he got it back. In another flashback on the night of past life-threatening incident, young Pat sneaked into young Pran's room. Okay, he returned his watch and told him they were even. However, Pran told him that it was not the case as he was about to throw the old watch. He said Pat still owed him for the deed. Okay, Pat acquiesced and said that he should tell him whenever he is in need, but do not approach him in public. He does not want people to think they are friends. In the present, Pran adjusts the same old watch. Turns out it is still functional and wears it. He can seem to hold back his smile as he recalls memories, and the piece of paper indicates he is feeling happy. That night, Pat returns to his dorm room and Pran shows up a little later, missing the other in just a heartbeat. Both are unaware they occupy the room directly across from each other. So this is my first impressions about Bad Buddy series. Bad Buddy just had its premiere and it was such a fun and interesting first episode. The story was not that deep, but definitely not boring. And Nanon are perfect in their roles as Pat and Pran, respectively. Enemies to lovers is a very common trope in dramas and movies. When done right, it is still so satisfying to watch. I really have confidence in this series because payoff is at the hand. So far, I've enjoyed the works he directed, written, the ones I have watched, and there are quite a few. The first episode already established a conflict. Their families are at mundane things. They were at each other's. Through that was the case, I feel that there is more to it than what we're told for now. Another intriguing thing is the fact that despite their parents' animosity towards each other, the children, Pat, Pran, and Pa, have a secret truce. On the surface, they are not on good terms as their parents expected of them. But behind that, they are much more civil. All thanks to Pat's sister, who is grateful to Pran for saving her life, unbeknownst to their parents. This secret that only them know will play a bigger role in the family's reconciliation. I can see the eventual romantic relationship as a catalyst for more bad, bad blood between the parents for dramatic purposes, of course, but I believe that long-kept secret will do the trick. The contrast between the families is glaringly obvious. Pat's family seems to be more gruff, loud, and do not care so much about rules and etiquette. Their family dynamic is typical for most homes in this day and age. In Pat's household, there is bickering among siblings and parents who just lets their children do stuff on their own. Meanwhile, Pran's is more of the traditional type. They seem to abide by the rules and values order and neatness. The family listens to classical music during meal times and doesn't start eating without a serving spoon. Oh my goodness. To avoid more conflict, they have transferred Pran to another school after a fight with Pat, I assume. Now, it would be more interesting to see how the parents would handle the situation once Pat and Pran become more than friends. Would would Pat's family be more accepting than Pran's? Or will they surprise? Maybe both families will be against it, or perhaps they will be more open to it. The latter is quite impossible, I know, but hey, I can still hope. Don't you know that and Nanon seal the deal? That's for me, okay? While the premise is ordinary, the lead's chemistry really stands out. I have always loved Nanon's acting. And while there are projects I'm not really fan of, his acting never disappoints. I first saw Nanon in the 2015 drama Ugly Duckling series. Don't the very first Thai series I watched. He played Miles' character's adorable and supportive little brother. He was so young then, about 14 or 15 I believe. His acting was so effective that I wanted to adopt him as my own little brother. Since then, I have watched some of his dramas, the legally accessible and readily viewable ones, and it is fun witnessing him grow as an actor. My latest obsession is his character in Remember You, as he nailed the anxious and terribly afraid of his murderous tendency university student. It's a guest role, but he was amazing in it. So go, check it out. Wait a minute. Okay, so let's continue. As for I have only seen him in his coming to be. I have yet to watch Blacklist, though I saw short clips of his other works, most especially the BL ones. He made such an impression on that series that I made a mental note to watch out for him. I'm actually puzzled because he looks like a little kid, but his build is that of an adult. Or is it just me? I still see him as a kid though. Anyway, I was excited seeing the pilot episode and their amazing chemistry. I was so glad their pairing happened. It's Nanon's first BL series and I was expecting some awkwardness, but did not see any problem at all with Nanon. Then I remember he is a seasoned actor despite his young age. And based on the first episode, it is safe to conclude Pran is crushing on Pat. I love the soft expressions and the play of emotions on his face when he thinks of him. He may act indifferent towards Pat, but he can't help himself from being coy when he is alone and remembering their interactions. Pat is so annoying with his pitchiness, and I say this with affection. I think he got it from his dad, though. I am prepared for the story to go boring or downhill. Although I know it can be a full disaster of a series for a reason already mentioned above. I still have my reservations because it's GMM TV. But I can guarantee that and Nanon will make a bad buddy an enjoyable watch. I'm looking forward to the narrative progression and the character's development. Make it a good one, GMM TV, please. We only got one episode, plenty of more to go. 11 to be precise. So now I know a lot of things are about to happen. The pilot episode was fun and entertaining enough to keep viewers wanting for more. Okay, so The second episode promises more cute interactions as the previous shows. They both thought the occupants of the rooms across are females, having a crush on them. And add in the scene where they are caught in a compromising position. The shock on that woman's face is hilarious. We have more misunderstanding coming our way, and I'm excited for what the following episodes have to offer. After watching the first or the pilot episode of Bad Buddy series. So, what about you guys? You are free to comment. Tell me something. So far, how do you find this BL series so far? Do you like it? Are you bored? Are you excited for episode 10? Do you already know to what's going to happen in the next three more episodes? We have episode 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I'm going to continue my reaction or about or a short summary of the episode 2. Okay, so the Bad Buddy episode 2 is as enjoyable as the premiere, and it already gave us a hint on who are more likely to be the instigators of the long-standing feud. In the second episode, Pat and Pran did everything they could to prevent their respective groups from crossing paths. However, it seems circumstances keep pulling them toward each other. Apart from trying to prevent another brawl, both our protagonists get a mild distraction. Okay, wait, let's continue. A delivery error resulted in a mistaken identity. Guilty feelings emerges and glimpses of the past told viewers a bit about what happened 3 years ago between Pat and Pran. While they are dealing with Okay, I'm going to give you a quick recap or highlights of the Bad Buddy episode 2. Quite a lot of things happen in this episode. Most of them are entertaining. Example, and Nanon bickering. While some are frustrating. Example, Pran's mom middling, Pat's dad running his mouth, and Pat's friends making a ruckus in front of Pran's room. Then there's one that should have never happened. That bar scene. After agreeing to inform each other of their whereabouts to prevent another fight, Pat and Pran communicate through line. They text each other constantly and somehow manage the situation, though most of the time they have gotten so close. When Pat's friends decide to have curry for lunch, Pat informs Pran, but unfortunately, Pran and his friends are already there. At the last minute, Pat changes his mind and convinces his friends to just eat at the noodle restaurant. He's strict. Pran pushes his friends out of the library when he sees Pat's group already settled. In another situation, their group almost run into each other as they are headed to the photocopy shop. Once again, Pat forcefully leads his friend to a different direction. The bathroom is not a neutral place as well because when Pran unexpectedly comes out of the cubicles, Pat pushes him back so that his friends won't see him. A white lie saves the day. The moment comes when they could no longer avoid each other. Pat's group arrives at the pavilion where Pran's group is. Con spews out a few barbs, which almost resulted in another fight. Fortunately, Pran comes up with a story about how the senior engineering and architecture students work together to build the that if anyone dares to initiate a brawl, the seniors will issue a ban. Pat quickly catches on and goes along with the story. The groups soon part ways. Pat and Pran strike a subtle conversation, revealing that the story is not true and there is a CCTV camera pointing directly at their location. As Pran hums a tune, a food delivery arrives. All is well, but Pran is surprised to see an extra item. Thinking that the salad is a free menu, he proceeds to eat it. A little while later, he receives a call from the guy. The man informs him that he gave him the food that is supposed to be for the across the hall. Okay. So, since he already finished the salad, Brad decides to make amends by giving 3 bottles of green tea. He knocks on the door but no one answers. He hangs the plastic bag on the doorknob and goes back to his room. Pat emerges a few seconds later. He is on the phone with the same delivery guy informing him of the mistake. Pat finds the bag and wonders who left it. He sees the note and admires the handwriting. I rolled my eyes at how his mind easily conjured the image of a woman as the gift giver. Pat brags to Pa that the girl across has crushed on him. Pa refutes it and says it is basic courtesy to say thank you. She is also sure Pat will be the one to make the first move to find out the identity of the person. The next day, Pram finds a box of steamed wonton hanging on his door along with a thank you note. Pram meets with his friends and they tease him, saying that the person is flirting with him. He says that there is no other meaning behind it except gratitude. His friends continue to tease and say the person is basically calling him a dumpling. Pat points out that the person might be male based on the particle used in his note. His friends say that it does not matter as a man can also flirt with Pran. Meanwhile, outside of the same location, Pat and his friends are also discussing the girl across the hall. He suddenly sees Pran and his friends going out of the same restaurant and immediately creates a distraction. Pran also diverts his friends' attention as they exit in another direction. When Pran arrives back to his dorm, and another food box awaits him, this time with a longer note, part of which states an invitation to meet on the rooftop at 9 p.m. Fran's friends read the note, and one of them infers that maybe the person is a girl after all. Maybe she just used a male particle to throw off suspicion. Brad mules the idea over the wonders if it has to be that complicated. Why wants to know if he wants to meet the person or not. He asks why if the person would, but why advises him that even if he does not like the person that way, he needs to go and meet the person so he could tell and end it right then and there. A few minutes past the hour of 9, Brand stands at the door to the rooftop, a little unsure but decides to go with it. Once there, he sees Pat and both of them are surprised to find out they live in the same dorm building. Still not aware that they are really the ones meeting there, Brand asked if there was anyone there when Pan arrived. Pat says no. Brand puts some distance away from Pat. A girl enters and Pat lightens up, thinking it is the girl from across the hall. He proceeds to recite the words he wrote on the note, much to the astonishment of both the girl and Pran. Pat asked if she is the girl from room 439, and of course the girl says no. Fran confirms that Pat wrote the note and decides to exit the rooftop. But remembering wise words earlier, he decides to reveal the truth. After the ruckus Pat's friends did in front of Fran's dorm room, Fran decides to have a talk with Pat. While the two engage in a heated argument, someone knocks on Pat's door. Pat looks through the peephole to see who is outside and turns out it is his dad. Pat and Fran frantically moves around the room to search for a place to hide Fran. He eventually hides under the bed and hears the entire conversation between father and son. The dad says some mean words towards Fran and his family. Pat tries to tell his father not to say those things. When Pat closes his door after his father, he says Fran who just came out from hiding. He tries to apologize for his old man's behavior and words, but Fran says there was no need. He tells Pat he will move dorms and leaves the room. The following day, Pat visits Pa in her campus, the same little school he and Fran attended. He tells Pa that the person living across his Fran, to which he says their life should be made into a movie. She asks Pat if he thinks he did nothing wrong, and Pat says, that's right. Pa then tells him the reason he is there because he feels guilty over his friend and their dad's action toward Pat. His sister also advises him to clear the air with Pat so that there won't be a repeat of the bad thing that happened last time. Pat thinks over his sister's words and remembers the incident that led to Fran's abrupt transfer. As it turns, Fran's mother finds out that Pat and Fran were in the same school band. The day of the performance, Fran's parents stormed the school, which disrupted Fran from singing. He walks off the stage, and the next thing Pat knew, Fran has moved to a different school. Back to the present, Fran checks out a potential new dorm when Pat shows up. He tells Fran that he does not have to move. Considering the things he owed Fran, he will be doing instead so they would be even. The two argue as Fran refuses an end on top of the bed. The dorm lady appears and sees them in a compromising position. Though shocked, she proceeds to tell Fran that the room is no longer available and they have no more vacancy. Outside the room, in front of the elevator, Pat and Fran continue their argument. They were still arguing even as the elevator door closes. The episode ends with all of their friends fighting in the sacred pavilion to the point they destroyed everything in it. So this is my impressions of Bad Buddy episode 2. Bad Buddy episode 2 continues with the energy and excitement its premiere episode had. I love the pacing so far as well as the story progression. Quite a few significant things happened in this episode alone. That it is not hard to keep up with it. While I also worry at how fast things are transpiring, I trust the production team to keep it up without compromising the narrative. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We start. In the pilot episode, we saw the families fight over the smallest of things. The situations presented in episode 1 made the weight of their issues less significant, and the feud boiled down to just a petty rivalry. When it was revealed that Pran got transferred because his mom found out he and Pat were performing together in the music fest, we were given a greater insight to the depth of hatred between the adults. It was heartbreaking watching that scene where Pran was definitely having the time of his life on stage, doing something he loved, only to walk away the moment his parents arrived. The way Pran's smile faded in an instant. When he saw the disappointment and anger in his mother's eyes is gut-wrenching. Gut-wrench, gut-wrenching. Nanon truly gave justice to that scene. Bad Buddy Episode 2, being rehearsed in this series, falls down into two categories. The hate, the hateful ones and the lovable two. Yeah, I said two because so far only Pa and Pran act the most sensible characters in this drama. I love how Pa puts up with Pat, no matter how gross and annoying he gets. I also love the influence she has on his brother. Pat seems to listen to her advices. In all fairness, she gave out great ones. She is instrumental in the truce between Pat and Pran. Though both their parents are unaware, she is also not afraid to call his brother out on his bad behavior, and she does with respect as well as conviction. Love Patranit is doing an awesome job as Pa and I love seeing the siblings' energy between her and Pran is doing his best to keep the peace, not only between their friends but their families as well. Despite getting hurt because of past father, he was magnanimous, and though to say he would change norms so he won't trouble Pat anymore. Even though it is not his fault and has nothing to do with the root cause of their parents' fight, he is willing to sacrifice his comfort for a peaceful existence. I hated how Pat's dad crushed Pran with his hateful words. But I love how the scene was executed. Nadon really displayed his acting range in that scene. He managed to put on a brave face as Pran while saying he is okay but his eyes can't hide the pain. The rest of the characters fall in the first category as all of them needs to under the, where where are we now? He needs to rein in his friends as they become more antagonistic towards Fran's group as well as downright being rude and bullies. Pat needs to stop tolerating their behaviors because it reflects on him. He really needs to grow up and be an example for his friends to follow. On the other hand, Fran's friends also need some growing up to do. While I love how more open they are and a lot less rowdy than Pat's friends, they must learn not to give in to Corn's provocations. Drake, kid, I have always liked you. You are doing great in portraying the hot-tempered Corn, but he needs to stop before the character becomes irredeemable. As for the parents, I have nothing to say. They will be in the hate list for a little while until they own up to their mistakes. The list to the lovable ones is open for those who will grow a brain as well as a conscience. Pat and Pran is a different as night and day. That opening scene of the second episode of Bad Buddy clearly shows how different Pat and Pran are in terms of their personality and habits. Pat is your typical guy who is gruff, messy, and annoying, especially as a big brother. He lets alarm goes off multiple times I am totally relatable to that. On a school day, after realizing he is running late, he rushes to do his morning routine before finally setting off to school. He wakes up the moment the alarm sounds. Pran smoothly goes about his usual morning schedule, which involves having breakfast after a shower. He even manages to clear the dishes before leaving his dorm room. I love how contrasts are even more glaring in this episode. It definitely set up the path for changes and their characters' development. I just have to mention that Om and Nandon are perfect as Pat and Pran. Their chemistry and acting are top tier. I find their arguments bit over simple things or something serious adorable. I just can't with the level of flirting these two have. Though I think they are mostly unaware of it. It is what they are doing plenty of times. The texting each other thing about their location is definitely boyfriend's behavior. The way the bicker or tickle resembles and radiates all married couple energy. Also, the manner in which Pat feels bothered by something he did to Pran doesn't feel like friendship. There's definitely more to it. Not to mention the lingering stares. I see you, Pat. What if there's history between Pat's dad and Pran's mom? The way it was hinted that the two of them was very furious upon discovering Pat and Pran together in a band is definitely suspicious. Now I really wonder what's behind the feud. Also, next week looks exciting as Pat and Pran bear the brunt of their friends' fight, and it seems the fake relationship is about to start. So that's all for today, guys. I gave you my impressions of the first two episodes of your favorite BL series, the Bad Buddy series. Thank you for watching uh, this podcast by me. Me, you must see this. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye.